Do I have something unbelievable to share with you today? It is going to be an interesting, I hope an interesting mic first unboxing impressions comparison video. The microphone you're listening to me on right now, which is running through the Rodecaster Pro II, is the Neat Worker Bee, and it is a pretty neat microphone. They don't make this anymore. I did a dedicated review on this like 3-4 years ago. It is a very cool and very unique looking microphone that I quite enjoy, and I don't use it as much as I should, and plugging it in and listening to it, it is a great sounding microphone. I always forget how great this microphone sounds. It is a condenser microphone, so it doesn't need phantom power. I have the generic condenser setting happening on the Rodecaster. If I turn that off, then this is just the microphone's default sound. So a little boxier, a little bit flatter, but that generic condenser setting really brings it to life in a super cool way. In the video I made about this, I talked about the history of the Neat company, founded by people who were originally from Blue, and that kind of blew my mind a little bit. And then they went on to form Neat Microphones, where they made some really neat microphones. And then Neat was purchased by Turtle Beach back in like the late 2010s era. And they did discontinue the existing mics and kind of do refreshed versions on them. But I don't know what's happening with Neat microphones currently. Like I can't really find much on availability. If you find the current ones that are in stock for purchase somewhere, they're kind of like limited stock. Everything says like, limited supply or only 4 left in stock or whatever. So it seems like they're kind of just blasting through existing inventory. The Neat Instagram page hasn't had anything posted on it in like 2 years. So it kind of seems like they're gone. I haven't heard anything from them in a long time, which is unfortunate because they make really cool microphones. And especially I really think these original ones were just so strange. So this is the Worker Bee. The reason I'm making this video is because one of my friends sent me this unexpectedly, which is its bigger sibling, the King Bee. So thank you to Doc Rock who sent this. If you're involved with Ecamm Live at all, you probably know Doc because he's huge in the Ecamm community, and he also has Doc Pops pop filters for microphones that, a lot of my super brightly colored ones are Doc Pops from him, which he he did design and make all on his own. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I wanted to kind of go through this. I've never used the King Bee. It's been sitting here and I want to test it out and share that with you and just see what it sounds like. The thing I feel weird about with this video is that this microphone, you can't buy it anymore. You have to maybe go to like eBay or something. It's not something I can just give you a link and you can go purchase one right now. For this unboxing, I'm just going to switch to my Sennheiser Boom Data frame. The Worker Bee came in this exact kind of like bee box, which is actually very cool. It's the one I keep all of my old like camera cables in. So all of my analog cameras, my RCA cables, my old batteries, old camcorder chargers and stuff, I keep them in this. So these cases are super duper helpful. And I don't know what the story is. I don't know if Doc just never used this or what, but like everything is in here completely brand new. And I remember the Worker Bee doing the same thing, which is you get like very detailed, not just instructions, but like how to handle specific things: vocals, electric guitar, string instruments, drums and percussion. Like it's really how to use the microphone. It's not just a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo that you don't need to actually ever pay attention to. So then here's the mic right here. Ooh, it's pretty. Okay, so there we go. There is the King Bee. If I take the Worker Bee over here, there's kind of the size difference between them. So the tops where the capsules are exactly the same. I don't know if there are different capsules in there. I kind of assume there would be. The Worker Bee just has this regular bee logo on it, and the King Bee has a similar logo, but he's wearing a crown because he is the king. These are really neat. They are neat. And then the shock mount. This just looks like a bigger version, or is it the same? Actually, I think this is the exact same version as the one that comes with the Worker Bee. So the shock mount is exactly the same. What's tricky with these shock mounts, and fortunately now with like more mic arms having more flexibility, is they force the microphone to be in one direction. You can't like, yeah, it has to be positioned in one way, and that's a little bit tricky. But what's very cool is the microphone doesn't just like clamp in and then there's these thumb screws here. I just feel like once it's locked in, it is very, very securely locked in. This is a lot heavier. It's basically just taller. It is twice as tall as this one, and I'm guessing that's because of all the different electrical components in here. So now back over here on the Worker Bee, I have the King Bee set up next to it. I haven't heard this microphone yet. I've connected it. I've made sure there's a signal, but I haven't listened to it. So this is me on the Neat Worker Bee, the original Worker Bee, and this is me on the King Bee, the original Neat King Bee. Wow, this has quite a full sound on it. Hello, Peter Piper pitched a podcast. I didn't really expect there to be this much of a difference in sounds. Hello, Peter Piper pitched a podcast. Peter Piper pitched a podcast. Wow, this one sounds... Well, let's turn off all processing so that way we don't have to worry about it. This is the Worker Bee with no effects and no processing, and this is the King Bee with no effects and no processing. This has they have totally different sounds, which is kind of, I mean, I guess they should, right? No effects and no processing on the King Bee, and no effects and no processing on the Worker Bee. And if I turn on the processing, because I would honestly never really use any microphone without some kind of effects or processing usually, unless it's a review where I'm not doing anything like that. This is the Worker Bee, and this is the King Bee. Wow, it sounds so incredibly different. I'm kind of shocked. And now this is the King Bee with no effects and no processing, and these do come with little pop filters. Peter Piper pitched a podcast. Peter Piper pitched a podcast. So they do make a difference. The mics look cooler without them. They're very visually appealing microphones, and the little bee logo that I mentioned does light up when you have phantom power running into it, which is kind of cool. It doesn't light up a lot, but you know, it's enough to cause a little bit of buzz. Not auditory buzz, but like visual. Anyway, the other thing I want to do, which I'm very curious about, and this is again, no effects and no processing on the King Bee, the original, is I do have the King Bee II, and I would like to see how these stack up. Because something that happened after Neat was acquired by Turtle Beach was they sort of discontinued these original, very quirky, goofy looking microphones, which I love, and they came out with slicker versions. So this is the King Bee II, and there is also a Worker Bee II, which very similarly, it looks exactly like this, just shorter and a little bit stubbier. So it's like the same relationship, the same sort of design language between the two that differentiates them, but you know, they're different microphones. I had never used the original King Bee before, so I'm very curious how this sounds compared. Like, do they sound exactly the same and this just looks different, or do they actually sound different? This King Bee II, well, let's plug it in and then we'll see. This right here is the original King Bee with no effects and no processing, and this is the Neat King Bee II with no effects and no processing. Was there a difference in sound? This is the King Bee II, and this is the original. Hello, Peter Piper pitched a podcast on the original. Peter Piper pitched a podcast on the II. I cannot hear a difference. They do not sound different at all to me. This is the King Bee II, and this is the original King Bee. I don't know, let's add some EQ just to see if that does change things. So now I've added some processing on the original King Bee, and now I've added some processing on the King Bee II. This is really how I would normally use the microphone, what it would say, how I do use the microphone when I use it. It's just the generic condenser setting on the Rodecaster, and King Bee II sounds awesome. Original King Bee sounds awesome. These sound exactly the same to me. I don't know to you if you're listening to headphones, if you're listening onto your phone or whatever. These sound completely identical to me, and that's kind of cool. At the time I'm recording this, you can still purchase the King Bee II and the Worker Bee II. You might have to shop around a little bit. It does seem like inventory is limited. I have not seen anything that officially says they are discontinued, but you know, I have an English degree. I can read the writing on the wall. When a company posts absolutely nothing anywhere for years on end, and all of the inventory of their products are limited at all the suppliers that I can find them and the vendors that I can find them, it's probably a sign that maybe they're not doing great, or maybe they're not going to be making more of those products. So overall, I am pretty happy that the King Bee II and the King Bee original sound exactly the same. I think that that's really cool. I've always been curious about this microphone. I was a little bummed because I didn't buy one when they were available, so I didn't think I can get one. So thank you again, Doc, for sending this to me. And I've had this one, and I've always wondered how they compare, and now I know. So case closed, mystery of the universe solved. And if you like this sound, or you maybe even just like the design of this one better, they are still available. I do really like the original design more. This is also incredibly heavy. These are very heavy duty, well-built microphones, all of them. I really do like Neat's original concept of kind of doing something a little bit different, a little bit quirky. It sounds amazing. They're good for vocals. They're good for instruments. They're kind of good for everything. They're just these really cool condenser microphones. They even made some USB microphones, which looked completely insane, but still sounded good. I have a video on one of them that are, I think they were called the Neat Widget. They are super cool and of course totally discontinued. I think Neat did come out with some other USB mics when they kind of relaunched everything, but they were, you know, a little less wacky and a little more serious, but I think they did still sound quite good. And just in case you're curious, the original Worker Bee had an MSRP of $199. The original King Bee had an MSRP of $349. The Worker Bee 2 had an MSRP of $99, so they cut the price in half, and the King Bee 2 has an MSRP of $169. Now, those prices, again, because these are discounted, you might be able to get it different, but I do actually remember when this one came out, $169 compared to $349 for what I now know is the exact same sound. Well, that sounds like a price that's not necessarily going to sting your wallet. You can keep your wallet filled with honey. I'm sure some of that also has to do with the fact that they had already done the original like R&D development for these and they were just doing maybe more cosmetic changes than anything. But the original kind of has a funky charm, which I kind of think, and Funky Charms sounds like a breakfast cereal. But I'm sort of sad, you know, whenever something goes from being sort of fun and different and unique to less unique to then disappearing, that's always a little bit sad to me. So, I don't know. I hope this highlights some really neat microphones, and even if they're not currently available, I'm just curious what you think, and I hope it was interesting to hear all these compared together. And you know what else is neat? Everyone who helps support the channel through YouTube channel memberships, and if you do want to see that original Worker Bee review where I go into a lot more detail, check out this video right here.